Hi everyone, Slippery Slope here, and welcome to your 6th Java tutorial. And in this one, we're going to discuss what variables are. So, what exactly is it? Is it something that varies? Well, it can. It's something you use for storage. It's something you use as a reference to something. I mean, think back to algebra where you had like 3 plus 1 equals 4, but instead of just typing 1, you had like an n or an x there. And it was just like, okay, well, subtracting 3 from both sides, I know that x equals 1. So that thingy right there, if we set it aside, and also tell Java what sort of variable it is, there you go. We have a variable cleanly declared and ready to use. Now, I know that was already a lot, so let's back off just a little bit. There are a few different types of variables. Some are called primitive variables, and there's one that we're going to talk about called a non-primitive variable. And I'm going to lay off right now what exactly that means. Hint, creation of objects, hint. And we'll get into that in future tutorials. But let's go over some of the numeric variables. I actually have a mnemonic device that I use so that I remember these all pretty easily. And that's BS, I love Fred Durst. And what that stands for is a byte is your B, short, int, long, float, and double, which that's not a clean Java statement, so don't worry about it. I'm going to get rid of that semicolon so that it doesn't look like I'm trying to make one. A byte and a short, I mean, these are things that you're probably never going to use. It's really more of an academic question, and there are things I could say about them, but I'd be kind of wasting your time and my time. A long, you're probably also unlikely to use, and a float, I really don't know why you would want to just use a float. Integers and doubles, those are the two that you're going to be using a lot. Now, I'm not saying the other ones, the other numeric types of variables don't have any sort of reason to exist. They do, but you're probably not going to see them very often, so again, that's why we're focusing on these. The difference between an integer and a double, among other things, the biggest thing is that an integer is just like, there you go, like just a plain number like that with no decimal place after it. There you go, it's a 3. And with a double, there we go. What the heck? That's what we call a floating point. A floating point number, because it has one of these, and it has numbers after it. Very cool stuff. It goes up to 15 digits. Weird. A couple of other kinds of variables. One is a Boolean. Let's declare our Boolean as a blah blah. Oh, let's capitalize the second blah there. Yeah, very classy of us. And we could set blah blah to true or false. A Boolean, it's like using your brain to be like Spock to be logical, though logical operators also exist as something in Java. And that's also something we'll discuss in future tutorials. But a blah blah, because it's a Boolean, can be true and can be false. And one other kind is a char, or a car, if you prefer, or a char, I guess. And using just single quotations like that, oh, I didn't give it a name. Car, char, blar. Well, blar. Okay, let's call it blar. Equals A. There you go. And just to prove that I know what I'm talking about, and then just make that up, let's print blar onto the screen. And let's go downstairs and ew, that's what, ew, gross. Anyway, yeah, there you go. It says A, because A is what's stored in blar. Awesome. One more thing, a string value, the string class, the stringiness. String bleg equals have you played Atari today? What the heck is a string? Is that like string theory, like physics stuff? Because if it is, we We don't want to have to think about physics right now. We don't want our brains to be broken. No. What it is it's text, dude. You run that thing, look at the bottom of the screen, and we're asked if we played Atari today. And if I showed you guys how to type up input, we could respond to that. But again, that's something for the future. Awesome. So now I've shown you guys the basic numeric variables. I've shown you guys the Boolean. I've shown you guys the char thingy. And I've shown strings. Now with this one, boy, I don't want to go too far ahead, but think this is a non-primitive. And I'm just not going to say anything more about that. To declare and initialize your variable at once, so we have an integer, and we call it the Beatles. And because there were 4 main members of the Beatles, like John, Paul, Ringo, and George, and there was a guy named Pete Best, but we're going to save that for another day when we are more interested in Beatles trivia than Java. We have both given it a value, we've declared a value, we've declared it a variable, and we've initialized it to 4. Neato. We don't have to do that, though. There. This is a declaration. I know I said that out of order just now, but this is a variable declaration. And we don't need to type in again because we already told the Java program, we told Java, hey, guess what? It's an integer. You already know this. We give it a value after the fact. So there you go. System.out.println. We must see this. We must see this on the bottom of the screen, or I will go crazy. There were and capitalize the, because that's just the right thing to do. There were blank, boom. I screwed up somewhere, didn't I? Yeah. Let's run it. There were 4 members of the Beatles, and notice that I put in a couple spaces so that when we printed it out at the bottom of the screen, it looked nice and neat and wasn't all crammed together because there weren't spaces between there were 4 and members of the Beatles. So yeah, there you go. That's an introduction to variables. If you have any other questions, and feel free to let me know. And yeah, stay cool. Peace.